Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar on family-friendly K through 6 literacy resources for you to use at home. We are very happy to have you here today and to start off this exciting week of educating kids in their homes. So we were hoping to help teachers to reach out to families with some of the resources that we will share today, and also hoping that there are some parents on today. There's a lot of information. We have given you some of it. We will send you away with some more information, and we are here to help you. I am Karen Matzo, and I will be one of your presenters today. On the right-hand side, there is a control panel, and in that control panel, you can ask questions. There's a place to write in questions. So, did I leave anything out, Mike?
Nope, but I will help monitor questions, so you can focus on the presentation, and I'll interrupt you as I see them.
That sounds terrific. Yes, Mike will interrupt me as. So here, Mike's not on this slide, but he is our president and leader of Demonstrated Success, and a wonderful person and a friend of mine for many years. An educator and a smart, incredible manager. So that's Mike, and he's got a couple of girls at home right now and enjoys running and doing all traveling and eating in the places he goes. I'm Karen, and you can see me in the upper left corner. If not on, are we projecting the webcams? Can folks see the webcams?
Yes.
Okay, so you see what I look like already, but I look better in this picture. And then there's, I have a couple kids there at home with me. It's been lovely. And there's Laura right there. She is a friend and a speech and language pathologist who has worked for many, many years with children. And there's Jen Kulik, who is joining us from Reading A to Z. Go back. And she's an educator and a principal and a coach, and specializes in special education and differentiation, which is something that we really need right now. So if you have questions for Laura and for Jen at the end, certainly ask them. We just want to say thank you to the New Hampshire Department of Ed. Caitlin Davis is the head of the division that is helping us to put these webinars out. We are so happy to be able to offer them to the whole state. And we want to thank you all for your dedication to your students. We are well aware that you have been working very, very, very hard, parents and students, and that it's been a really crazy time. Mike and I, and we must have spoken to 50 educators in the last 2 days, all of which are working their very hardest, 7-8 hours a day. So thank you for all this new learning that you're doing. And thanks for being patient with us. And so everyone is muted, and you will be muted, but I explain that later. You can put in a chat question, and you can also raise your hand. So here's our agenda today, and it looks long, but there's just a few minutes in each topic. Laura's going to start us out today talking about reading and what we know about reading as educators, and hopefully to share a little bit with parents. Many of you may know a lot of this, but we're hoping that this will help you guys at home to support your students during this time. These reading slides. So we're going to talk a little bit about reading at home.
Perfect. Thanks, Karen. So when we think about reading, we think about it as a number of overlapping skills. And teachers, we know this. It's made up of word recognition. How many words do you see and recognize? In the same vein that you see a chair and know automatically that it's a chair, and you don't have to break it apart into its components and think, oh, it has 4 legs and a seat, so it must be a chair. We see this one object and we can easily recognize what it is. And so that is our sight word reading, our word recognition. We see the shape of the word, we see the length of the word, and we know right away. We also need decoding. So for those unfamiliar words, that ability to apply what we used to call phonics or sound symbol correspondence so that we can break apart words and therefore read them and sound them out. Then we need to be able to do it rapidly and accurately so that we're not using a whole lot of energy as we do this. And that's our rapid automatic naming or fluency. And we see that with a lot of the things that teachers do with kiddos when it comes to how many words they could read a minute, in what different level texts, and those kind of things. And then finally, and yet all encompassing, is comprehension, because it is truly the only purpose of reading. There's no reason to read if we don't understand. So we're reading to obtain information. So kiddos that can read but can't understand, I would argue, are not really reading. So we want to read, to gain information, to build our vocabulary, and as a language building block. So what we have next is some things that we can do at home, I think. So Karen, can you move the screen? You're trying to. Okay. So the first thing when we think about sight words is we think about the list of words that we expect kiddos to know, and that can be Dolch words. There's a Fry reading list. There's classrooms have their lists of words that they want to get kiddos through in a certain amount of time, by certain ages and by certain grades. These are the words in our language. There are a million different lists, and they all are the same words, just ordered differently. So as parents and as teachers, don't stress over the list. These words belong to all of us. Choose a list, work from it, and go on. And as parents, chances are you have lists from your teachers. Here are some pictures of different lists. You'll notice that they may not be the exact same, but they are lists that have been accumulated by the frequency that these words occur within written language. So we know that things like the and all and am and of are very, very, very frequently used. And so by building a child's sight word vocabulary, we're going to increase their comprehension because they're not going to be spending time trying to figure out what the word is. And we're going to increase their fluency. Oftentimes, most often, these words are what we would call phonetically irregular, or they don't play fair. So parents, when we think about sight words and we think about ways to build upon kids' sight word vocabulary and sight word reading, we often first think about the old school, let me show you a card and I want you to tell me what the word says. And there's nothing wrong with it, but there's some ways that we can do it that are more fun. And all of these things can be done not only with sight words, but you could do it with math facts, you could do it with anything else, and you can play with this. So when we think about ways to increase kids' fluency, to increase their success and their accuracy, we can think of that input and output channel. How are we giving them the information and how are they telling it to us? So here's some different things that we can do. We can do what I call a hear do. So they hear the word and then they jump on the card. So if you've got little guys and you put your cards on the floor, you put your sight words that you're wanting them to work on, put them on the floor, you call out a word and they jump on it. It's a great activity because kids are getting moving. It helps when you have a child who has some expressive language issues and might not be able to think of that word really quickly, that they can show you that they know it from a different channel, that receptive spot. There's Here Shine. Put all your cards on the floor, take a flashlight. Little guys love using flashlights, laser pointers, anything like that, and then they're shining the light on the word that you have called out. You can do a here toss, you can have a bean bag, you can have a sock rolled up, you can have a piece of paper, you can have one of those pretend snowballs and have them toss or throw a ball or some object on the word. You can have them do a here flip. So this is going to make it a little bit easier for the words that are more challenging or for your kiddo who isn't having a lot of success. So every time you flip a card over, you're decreasing your list of words that they're having in their visual field, and it does make it a little bit better. I will sometimes in my office put kiddos on swings. They put their belly on the swing. I put the cards on the floor and they swing and they have to reach and point to the word that I've called out. You can also switch roles with your kids, which is really great. Kids love to be the teachers, and we know as adults that what we often need to learn the most, we end up teaching, I think. And it gives kids a little bit of authority. It gives them, and it makes it really fun for them. So when they're the teacher for you. We can also do a cease do, and this is a great thing with these tricky words. So words like than and then, or there and there, where when the child sees the word that, for example, you have a few of each, you mix them together. Let's say you have a big pile of than and then. When they see than, maybe they stand up, maybe they jump, maybe they touch their toes. As we're having more and more time with these guys at home, it's always nice to bring in more and more physical movement. Other things they're doing, they're really analyzing. So they're looking at this word and they're having to look very closely and carefully and analyze for which word it is and what is their target word and is it the same or different. So it's going to build upon that skill as well.
So now we're going to talk about, that was all about word recognition and word activities. And now Laura's going to talk about decoding.
So decoding or sounding out words. So that's another step in the reading process. And we're all having to do it at some point. And even us as skilled readers are having to do it when we encounter an unfamiliar word. So there's a lot of fun games that you can play with kids. And this is a great game that I used to play with my kids in the car. I play it with kids when I'm in a school and I'm walking from their classroom to my office. And I say, you know, what is this word that I'm thinking about? And I will provide them every sound. And we can then play with the amount of time between your sounds. So, hey, kiddo, what is the word I'm thinking about? Oh, they put it together and they can play with those sounds. So that's a great thing. If you have little guys and they're not at that level, you can do it with phrases, thanking you, or what phrase I'm thinking about, and they tell you it's thank you. You can do it with compound words, snowman, campfire, that kind of things. And what it does is it helps build working memory. And working memory is that ability to hold something in mind and then perform some type of operation to that information. So when we think about kids learning to read and having to sound out words, it's not only remembering what letters make what sound, but then actually blending them together. You can work on some sound identification. So,
Laura,
yes,
are you still on the mystery words?
I'd move because the slide moved, but I'm good to move.
No,
but we do have some resources.
I did want to just tell folks at the bottom. Are you getting feedback from my voice?
I am.
Okay. I will get some headphones, but the resources at the bottom are live links. And so when you get this PowerPoint, there's an explanation. I'm just going to actually go to it real quick.
My name is Elisa, and I'm a literacy specialist with Haggerty Phonemic Awareness. We wanted to be able to provide parents, students, caregivers, tutors, and teachers with some valuable resources that can be used as you engage in e-learning over the next couple of weeks. In school, your child participates in a daily phonemic awareness lesson.
I'm going to fast forward that because I do just want to show you the content
Even
here.
Manipulate sounds in words. The phonemic awareness activities are oral and auditory. As we think about bringing this home to with your students over the coming weeks, we want you to know, why is this so important? According to Marilyn Adams, the lack of phonemic awareness is the most powerful determinant of the likelihood of failure to read.
Okay, so I'm going to stop that for a second, but my point here is that some of what Laura's talking about is phonemic awareness, right? Because she's talking about doing that auditory piece. And I think it's really important, and I know that you said this already, Laura, is that this is stuff that can be done all the time, anytime you're with your child. So the resources at the bottom here, especially the download assessments and resources from Haggerty, it will actually give you some resources for you to do the things that Laura's describing. Okay, so these are live links down here, and when you get the recording, you can go and and hit up those live links for some more resources. Okay, there you go. Laura, you're up. Laura? Oh. Okay. Can folks hear me? I'm going to take over for Laura for a little bit, and maybe Laura, you can go out and come back in to the webinar. So this is another type of exercise that you can do with your student, and this has to do with identifying the sounds that the student is hearing in the words. So if you say cat, right, to your child, and you can ask them, well, what is the first sound that you hear in the word cat? And the initial sound is always the easiest sound for a student to figure out. So they're going to say back to you, k. And the last sound is this. Sorry about that. The last sound is the final sound, which is t, right? And then you're going to ask your student about the middle sound, which is usually the hardest. That would be ah, right? So just so you know, the initial sound is the easiest, the end is the second easiest, and then the hardest is the middle sound. And vowels, too, tend to be fairly difficult. It's also fun to make up silly words, pretend words. We call that pseudo words in the reading world. And it really helps for kids to hone in on that skill. So any kind of words, you can even have your kids make up silly words and then talk to them about the initial, the middle, and the ending sounds. So that's another activity for you to engage with your student. Okay, and talking about fluency. The fancy name for fluency is rapid automatic naming. And there's lots of fun things that you can do with rapid automatic naming. For instance, how many items, right, can you name in a minute? So you're in your kitchen with your student. Go look around and you have 1 minute to name as many items as you can. And then, or while you're in the kitchen, ask your student, how many items can you name in your bedroom, right? So you're going to do a visualization piece, right? Where, oh goodness, I need to turn that off. Sorry, that's too much. Okay, so, or anything, things we eat, we drink, breakfast foods. It's all that getting kids to visualize and bring words up quickly, naming things. It's just super fun. And these are just some ideas here. And Laura is suggesting that you can use a timer and a pitch counter. And then you can even have the kids, or you would create tally marks, or you can do it and the students can tally mark you to add a little fun numeric component. So that will help them with rapid automatic naming. Another activity around fluency that students actually do in school a lot, and it's easy for you to do at home with your students, is fluency, word fluency. So some of the activities that we were talking about earlier with the flashcards and stuff, what I've done over the years is, and many of your teachers probably do this, your students' teachers, you might have 100 sight words on a page, and you time Susie, and you see how many words she can read within, a minute, let's say. And then it's really nice to have Susie graph her own progress so that she becomes invested in the activity and so that she can see how much more fluent she is getting with those sight words. And I also have introduced this to, oh, Laura's back. Okay, I'm going to finish my sentence and you can take over. I do this with sounds. And with learning disabled students in the past, I've taken, for instance, letters that they're having trouble with, that they might be confusing, and I've put them on a piece of paper, typed it, blown it up in a grid, right? And like, let's say P, B, and D, right? Those letters are visually confusing. So I've had students, and I make them random, and then I time kids. I give them a minute, and I see how many correct sounds they can produce for those letters that they're working on, right? So you can do it with any alphabets, any letter sounds. So for little kids, it's a really fun fluency exercise. So this is, one thing that I feel really strongly about, and I think Laura did too, and I'm sure Jen and Mike do too, is reading aloud to your kids, even when they can read themselves. And in a lot of ways, since kids, they're not going to be at school reading, so I think both are important, but hi Laura, we can't hear you. Sorry, but we can't hear you. I'm not sure why. So I'm going to keep going. And I read to my kids until they were, 15 years old, or we listened to books on tapes in the car, right? And I think that was a large reason for their current day vocabularies. So I would encourage you to certainly listen to books, Harry Potter and all that in the car, when you're going on trips, when you're going anywhere. But at night, if you're able to read to your children at their interest and intellectual level, it really grows their vocabulary and it grows their comprehension, because they're exposed to more complex literature than they could normally access on their own if they were reading to themselves. So I would encourage that. And then Laura and I were talking about it, and it's really important. There's some handouts, just so you know, that are attached in the handouts section. And one of the handouts has some prompts of suggestions for you to ask your kids while you are reading with them. And these are just a couple of examples. So what do you picture while you're reading, or while I'm reading to you? What do you think this character looks like? What is he or she feeling, and why? There's a real value in asking kids why, right? Because we want to know that they are basing their thoughts and their conclusions on what they're hearing from the text. And then, questions like, and this is what we have always done, you come across a word, that it's a marginal word, you're not sure, kids always ask them. And ask them, what do you think that word means? And what makes you think that, right? So these are just some questions that we modeled. And don't forget, there's a handout at the end that you can connect to. Another thing that's great to do is share reading with your student or your child. You read a page and he or she might come up with questions to ask you about the text. It's good to have kids practice coming up with questions that they're asking about the text. And then when it's her turn or his turn to read, right, you can ask the questions. And then there's also, of course, sustained silent reading. Set up a time for your child to read every day in a cozy place, and then continue to talk with your child about that. So these are some games that Laura and I brainstormed together. And the important part here is, you see number 3 where it says no game, no problem. So if you don't have the game, no big deal. Don't go out and spend a lot of money. But this is a super fun game. I think it's also, you can do it on your phone. I've seen my teenagers hold the phone up to their forehead, and it has an image on it, and then they have to ask questions to figure out what that image is. And that's basically the goal of the game. So that's headbands, if you have that in the house, or you can cut out pictures, newspapers, from anything, and you can do it. I remember when I was a little kid, my mom did this at my birthday party, and we taped it to my back, and then I had to ask questions to the group. So tell a tale. This is another great game. Pick a card, add to the story. At the end, if you don't have the game, right, you can cut out pictures and collect a box of everyday objects and play it with real items, use family pictures, and it seems like a really good idea to me. Okay, this is Taboo. We play Taboo all the time in our house. And there's Kids Taboo, so it makes it a little bit easier, and it's hysterical. There's a word at the top. You have to get your partner to say that word without actually saying any of the words below it. And if the talker, right, says the word, there's a fun buzzer that will go that you can that the other team, because the other team watches and makes sure you're not cheating and saying any of those words, and they buzz you, and then the winner is the team who gets the most, who's doing the best job, and then gets the most cards done. All right, everybody, I'm going to keep going. Mike, good?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Would You Rather, and Laura gave this to me. So this is hers, although I have seen several elementary school teachers play this in their classrooms, and different people have used this for their virtual, some virtual activities that they've put out there. And basically, I'm just looking at the first one. Lick a dirty trash can or the bathroom floor. Okay, so I guess you decide which you would rather do and why. So it's basically a conversation game, and I love that. I mean, that's something you can do at the kitchen table. It's super fun, and it will make everybody laugh, which everybody needs a laugh right now. Okay. So this is these are some card games to play together. Ghost. So lots of people have not heard of Ghost. Ghost is our family favorite forever, and it's a really good language game. It's a great vocabulary game. I have attached the directions in the handouts, and all of the documents from the handouts will also be in the folder, to which you will get a link. Hi, Laura. To which you will get a link a couple of hours after the webinar today. So after the webinar today, I'm not sure whether I mentioned this, all of you who are attending and everyone that registered, even if you didn't make it, you will get a link to the recording. You will get a link to a folder with the handouts and any questions that weren't, and answers to any of the questions that weren't answered during the webinar. There's a little bit of feedback there, so I think the organizers need to be a little careful. So Ghost, really quickly. Ghost, G-H-O-S-T is, those are the letters you get as you lose the game. The goal of Ghost, so imagine yourself, you're sitting in the car, someone says a letter. The goal of the game, so everybody goes around and is going to say another letter. The goal is to not spell a word. So if I start with B and the next person says L and the next person says E, right? Everybody has to have a word in their mind, because somebody could challenge them, but you don't actually want the word to land on you, right? So if I say B-L-E, we have, and the next person says S, okay? The next person has to get really creative, because obviously the word could turn into bless, right? So it's that person's job to think about, oh goodness, what in my vocabulary can I pull up that is not going to end up with bless? So it's a vocabulary game, it's a spelling game. A modification is we used to let our kids use, they wrote stuff down on paper while they were playing so they could figure out how to spell. We sometimes let them team up against us. So that was just a super fun game, and you can download the directions after the webinar. Geography is another game that we play, and I say geography in quotes because it doesn't have to be geography, but it started, the original form is geography. So if I say, you go around and someone says a place. So if I say New York, and the next person who goes, their job is to say a place that starts with the last letter of the previous place. So if I say New York, right, Mike might say Kentucky, Laura might say the Yukon, and so on. And you can expand the categories so that you can do food, you can do people, you can do pop stars, you can do songs, right? And it's super fun, and it helps kids with vocabulary. It helps kids with content. It's just and rapid naming as well. Laura, are you here yet? Okay. I am going to keep going. I'm not sure what's happening with her volume. Two truths and a lie, everybody knows, and that's a fun thing to play with your kids. You make stuff up and you decide which thing is the truth. And then the alphabet spotting is a game that I'm sure many people know it too. You look for the alphabet on the signs, right? So you go through the alphabet as you're driving, and you look for all of the letters on the signs. Okay. So now we're moving into online resources to support literacy. I'm thinking that this webinar is going to go over for about 10 minutes. I hope everyone will stay with us. Sorry for the technical inconveniences. Mike and I will look into how to prevent that going forward. And I want to introduce Sarah Krause is on the webinar from Reading A to Z, and so is Jennifer Kulik. And you read about Jennifer Kulik. And I'm actually going to change, Jen, can you hear me? Okay. So, Mike, can you hear me?
Oh, I was muted.
Oh, okay. Hi, Jen. Oh, I'm so happy. Okay, good. So, Jen,
I said that I just activated my webcam as well. I'm not sure if anyone can see me, but I thought it would be nice to put a face in the name.
That's awesome. I'm going to switch the presenting to Jen, okay? And she's going to talk to you about Reading A to Z and what that organization is sharing with teachers and students and families now that we are kind of schooling from home. So, okay. Let me just get.
Hi, Jen. Are you able to talk? Let me see if I can hear you.
Yeah, she's on. Let me
Okay.
yeah. I need to share the screen.
Well, while you're sharing the screen, why don't I give you a quick overview? How does that sound?
Okay, here, Jen's now the presenter. So Jen, you got the screen if you accept it.
There we go.
Excellent. Hi, Sarah.
We're good.
Hi there.
And just so, I mean, the viewers can hear us, not just the organizers, right? I don't need to activate any additional audio. Are we good there?
You should be good. People will write in and say if they can't.
Okay.
Okay. Well, this is Sarah Krause, and I'm not on the screen with you folks, but I am in the background here. Karen and Laura, thank you so much for taking the time today and sharing with the parents and the teachers out there. And we are so excited at Learning A to Z. We send our best wishes to you for good health and peace during this extraordinary time. And whether you're an educator or a parent, your tremendous responsibilities carries the hopes and possibilities of each child, especially during this unprecedented time. So we want to thank you, and we want to thank you for being on the front lines, because that's what you're doing right now. At Learning A to Z, we're an organization created by educators. We will partner with New Hampshire teachers and families to provide resources at no charge. Over the next few months, there'll be help and support. And as you move into this virtual learning world, we'll be there for you. What do we do? Basically, we inspire curiosity, we ensure comprehension, and we instill the joy of learning for elementary students. And we're all about building literacy. We're not about building business right here. We're about building literacy. And as your partner, we can help you do that. So for the next few minutes, keep in mind that we are on the same page with you, and building literacy skills and the love for reading is our goal. And briefly, we want to share with you what it might look like for you as we offer these free resources to help you to that end. So in a few moments, Jen, who you've just met, she's going to provide a brief snapshot of what the resources and books will look like. and how those resources can help instruct and provide learning opportunities for each child. We know that learning happens at home too. It's not just at school, and that's why Raz-Kids and Headsprout has made it easy for teachers and families to bridge both worlds, working together to help students succeed. And we also want our children and our students out there to have some fun along the way. It's very difficult during this time, we know, and it can be very stressful for parents. So these resources are going to help those children be able to move along and have fun and maybe even have a smile on their faces. So let's get going. Jen Kulik. Jen has over 12 years of experience in education. She served as a teacher, a coach, a coordinator, a principal, a supervisor, and national curriculum consultant, and she specializes in special education, differentiated instruction, and educational leadership. And Jen, we are so happy that you're here today for Learning A to Z, and thank you for taking this part of the presentation.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yes, thank you everyone for having me. Okay, so if you can see my screen, we're going to get started with talking about two of our products today that we, as Sarah mentioned, are going to be offering free of charge for the remainder of the school year. Raz-Kids and Headsprout makes it easy for teachers and families to bridge both worlds, working together to help students succeed. We're going to start with Raz-Kids, which is our award-winning digital library of leveled ebooks and e-quizzes that students can use to practice in school, at home, or on the go. Click through here. Some of our key features include interactive ebooks, leveled text, automated quizzes, access to digital reports, as well as engaging student incentives and awards. These features support teachers in differentiating instruction, saving time, and engaging multiple learning styles. With 29 different levels of difficulty, students can interact with these award-winning ebooks by listening, reading, writing, recording themselves, taking quizzes, and much more, all online. While interacting with a book, students will have options to, as I mentioned, record themselves reading, which is helpful for teachers who want to ensure that students are completing assignments correctly, or if they want to check for fluency. Students can also respond to tasks that teachers give by using the projectable features to underline key vocabulary. They can use the comment icon to respond to a prompt. They can store new words that they're learning as they read. And they can even write journal reflections. Every book is going to come with a leveled quiz that can include a constructed response at the end. And while they're completing these quizzes, students can look back in the book if needed for answers. All of these features are available on any mobile device using our Kids A to Z app. Our online running records allow teachers to appropriately level their students and check to see when students are ready for that next reading level. Students simply record themselves reading a passage, then they record themselves retelling the passage, and finally they complete a comprehension quiz. These results from that e-assessment are immediately sent to the teacher where they can quickly and efficiently inform their instruction. And parents are supported too with our easy-to-use online parent portal. So here, families can view information on their child's activity, as well as how they're doing on assignments. Our Reports tab allows families to quickly view our child's reading rate, level up progress, average quiz scores, and more. And you can even send messages to your child to encourage and motivate them throughout the learning process. Teachers are provided with great reporting support as well, with information to help inform their instruction for the whole class, small group, and individual students. In these reports, teachers can drill down into specific comprehension skills, find out which students are interacting with those skills, how they're doing, and what needs to be taught next. And finally, before we hop online, I wanted to point out that Raz-Kids is part of a McCrell study that reported on Raz Plus meeting the highest SS standard for strong evidence. You can read more about this on our live site, but I just wanted to point out that Raz-Kids is very much a part of this because it is the online portion of Raz Plus experience. So let's just head over very quickly. I want to show you a little bit of where and what I was just talking about. Give me 1 second to try to click in here. Okay, so this is our Raz Plus platform, or I'm sorry, our Raz-Kids platform. And by logging in, teachers can very quickly do a couple of things here. So the teacher corner, you're going to have professional development support, taking a look at short video clips or watching webinars to help you get set up and running and get your students set up and engaging with these resources. You're also going to have support about leveling your students and how that works. We've got some instructional tools. And then, of course, we have support for your student connections, helping understand teachers, how do they create incentives and awards for their students who are engaging with these resources. Another important tab on the Raz-Kids platform is the resources tab, which is where you're going to find all of your leveled books, songbooks, poetry, as well as your assessments. I mentioned those online running records. Clicking into benchmark passages, you can locate the level of book that you want to assess your students on. And in a matter of seconds, you can click this assign button and assign a running record to your entire class. As you can see here, I have a prestigious group of students lined up for us today. Or you can select one individual student and click assign. The same process happens for those leveled books. Clicking into one of the 29 different levels of difficulty, you have access to books down below that will allow you to very quickly make that assignment for your student. And when you're assigning, you have the ability to decide, do I want my student to listen to this book, read this book, take a quiz, and do I want to include that constructed response in that quiz? So it's very easy, quick, and intuitive to follow. Two more things. You can also search for resources of any kind using this search tab. And finally, you have a Manage Students tab that I just wanted to point out. And this is where you will view your class roster. You can review reports on your students as well. Clicking into reports is going to allow you to view student activities, how often, how long they're listening, reading, taking quizzes, comprehension skills that they're interacting with. And then, of course, I mentioned you can drill down into these comprehension skills, see how students are engaging with that resource, as well as view quizzes and find out very quickly what students are struggling on and what students are doing well with.
Hey, Jen.
Yeah.
This is Mike. There are a couple of questions. Somebody asked if you have kindergarten level books. That's one question.
We do. Yeah.
And then another one, Jen, is it possible for the teacher and student to see the same text at the same time so they can read aloud to the teacher?
Yes. So teachers have the ability to project these books as well as assign them to students online. Taking a look at, if you look at our level correlation chart, and you'll notice I popped over to the teacher corner and I accessed that under All About Leveling. This is a great place to see the different correlations in our program. Teachers or families might use Lexile, they might use Fontes and Pinnell, they might go by a grade level, they might go by ages. And so you can see here that we have resources that are going to be spanning across K through 5, and really pre-K through middle school is the population that we serve to students. And then you mentioned about teachers being able to view books as well as assign them to students. And so the answer to that is yes, you can listen to the book, you can pull that up right here on your screen and have that book read to students, or you can read the ebook to your students if you're using a different platform that records, you know, short video mini lessons. You can engage with your students in that way. And I was just going to pop onto the Kids A to Z side to show you two things. So this is my current classroom for Raz-Kids, and if I would click into a student, so now I'm signing on to my platform, and you'll see here that this is my Raz-Kids platform. And so students have the ability to access the reading room, which is a library of all of our books and resources on Raz-Kids. They can access their assignments right here. And you've got icons that are going to help students know which tasks they've completed and which ones they still need to complete. And you also have a level up spaceship, which actually allows students to level themselves up to the next level, all on their own. If they complete all of the tasks that are listed in this portal, it will actually take the student from a U to a V. And there are many other features of this online portal, such as the incentive star zone, where students can create avatars. They can view their stats to see how they're doing and view which badges they've earned. But I want to show you very quickly that parents have access to view their child's reports as well. And to do that, I need to hop into a different demo account because I haven't given myself access here. So if I'm in a different demo account and I click in, let's try this. So if I'm a parent and my child is Brittany Garcia, I can very quickly log into the parent portal and view, as I mentioned earlier, recent activity. So I can see which types of resources my child is interacting with, the location of where she's accessing that. And that just means that Brittany has access to multiple products. We have some other products available, and so she's clearly taking advantage of all of those products when she is completing those assignments as well. And then a parent can click on reports and see, well, how close are they to leveling themselves up? What's their average quiz score? What types of books are they reading? Here you've got some Headsprout data, looking at the current episode that Brittany is on, how many she's completed this week. You've got reading rates and level progress, lots of things to come back to later on and become familiar with, because it's going to give you a lot of information on how your child's doing. And then I also mentioned you can even send Brittany a message and, you know, hey, I noticed you have an assignment from Miss Kulik. You need to get that done. Love you. Bye. You know, whatever you want to write, you can send that to your child. Okay, I'm going to pause because I'm talking really fast. I'm trying to be mindful of time, but I'd like to move into Headsprout unless anyone has a question for Raz-Kids.
I just want paraprofessionals can access this as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then, well, I'll get the rest of the questions after. It's okay. Go on in to Headsprout. Go for it.
Okay, sounds good.
Jen, I'm
So
sorry.
Headsprout.
Real quick, Jen, sorry, a couple other ones. Classroom teachers are also using Raz-Kids. Can a reading specialist share students, I guess, with the teachers?
Can a reading specialist share, say that again, share what?
I think what they're saying is that they have teachers using Raz-Kids and also the reading specialists. Can the reading specialists share students with given teachers? I think is what they're asking.
Yeah, so
Jen, I can answer that question for you, Jen. Yes, they will be able to share, because what they will have is a free license to be able to do so. So if you have a paraprofessional or you have a special ed teacher, they will be able to share with the teacher because of that process. Does that make sense? I hope that helps.
And then someone's saying, can I have multiple teachers in a classroom? I'm a Title I, and some classroom teachers are already assigned things to students in the title program. So can they have multiple teachers in a classroom?
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure I understand that question. Every teacher would have their own license, so I would think that they would all be able to share. If they're under one umbrella, which we can talk about offline, if they're under one account for, say, the district or school, we can provide that for them. What we're talking about right now are the free resources, which we can give at this point, but the free resources that the teachers and the parents have available to them. And we'll also give a link to Laura so that she'll be, or Karen, so she'll be able to distribute that to the teachers and the parents as well. But we're here in the background to help you out. So if some of those questions come up and we can't answer fully right now, we can certainly talk offline. Does that help?
Yes. And then a couple of people have asked if it's possible for a parent to set up an account. And yes, it is, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Those are good questions.
We will provide some further information to the panelist team to share with everyone after this call. We have a couple of other products and capabilities that will expand upon some of the questions that you're asking. For the purposes of today, we're focused on what Raz-Kids can do, but there are certainly other capabilities that I think might be worth sharing in the future as a follow-up to this webinar. So thank you for asking those questions. They're great.
And yes, the program is free until at least through the school closures. So
Correct?
okay.
Oh, okay, here we go. So Headsprout is a little different. It's a dynamic kids reading program that uses engaging interactive instruction that automatically adapts to each student's learning needs. So with Headsprout, students go on a digital journey that puts them on a path to becoming successful readers. Some of the key features of this program include adaptive online instruction, smart error corrections, automated placement, reporting, and benchmark assessments, built-in incentives, and a vocabulary building engine. Using these features, Headsprout's virtual instruction makes it easy and effective to implement your student or child's online learning. So we have two main sections in Headsprout, one focusing in early literacy instruction and the other focusing on reading comprehension. Students enjoy a game-based visual board where they will flow from one episode to the next and ultimately graduate from early reading to reading comprehension. And we've just added a third component, that being 50 episodes of advanced reading comprehension. You'll see here that each section comes with a scope and sequence that's going to help teachers understand the sounds, words, vocabulary, and skills that are being taught in each episode. And it's a great guide for skill-based instruction or to just see how the program flows and builds upon concepts that are being taught. So with early reading episodes, Headsprout teaches non-readers and early readers critical reading fundamentals, including phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, and basic vocabulary. With the reading comprehension episodes, Headsprout teaches intermediate readers the four main components of reading comprehension: finding facts, making inferences, identifying themes, and learning vocabulary in context. And then with our new advanced reading comprehension episodes, Headsprout digs deeper, provides more explicit systematic instruction in reading comprehension strategies and vocabulary for students in higher grade levels or who are excelling in their learning process. After every completed episode, teachers receive student data that will support progress monitoring and help them inform their future instruction. Headsprout is going to include a benchmark assessment after every 10 episodes to ensure student mastery as well. This program can be used for a number of different learning needs and in almost any learning environment. It truly provides access for all and can benefit any type of learner. And again, we also are excited to say that this innovative Okay, let me log in here. So here we have the Headsprout online platform. And it starts off on the teacher side, which again is a similar setup to Raz-Kids. So you've got your teacher corner giving you customized support for Headsprout now, instructional tools, student connections, professional development, as well as correlations to your Common Core standards and reading levels. And you have your resource tab. And here's where you will see that breakdown of those 3 different platforms: early reading, reading comprehension, and advanced reading comprehension. And we also have a placement test. So the way this would work, or one way that it could work, is that teachers assign their students a placement test. And this placement test, in a matter of minutes, will give you a suggestion for which episode your student should begin in this program. You can accept that suggestion and it automatically sets them up, or you can customize it and place that student on the episode that you feel they need to be on. And so let's just say you've got a classroom of students that are in early reading. You can select this early reading tab, select episodes, and it's going to give you a breakdown of each episode as well as a preview of what that episode would look like and lots of other great information. So you'll see here that I showed you the map that students view online as they work through each episode. And I always like pulling this up because it's colorful and makes a lot more sense for students. And while that's loading, the other thing I want to mention is that after the 5th episode in Headsprout, now students are also going to be sent an ebook after they complete each episode. So that's sent to their Raz-Kids portal. It's extra practice on the skill that's being taught, and it's a book that can be implemented at home or through your online education. In the teacher corner, we have a scope and sequence that I mentioned. This is, in my opinion, a critical link for teachers to kind of better understand the program. And if you're not exactly sure where you want to start your students, this really gives you a nice idea of each episode and what is being taught. And you can click through early reading, reading comprehension, and then now the advanced reading comprehension to view that scope and sequence. So you have your scope and sequence. You have this beautiful progress map that students get to engage with. We're not going to go through it today, but you have a bunch of additional resources available to you if you want to extend that instructional process. But in its basic form, most basic form, teachers can assign students to those episodes. Here are the benchmark assessments that you can also implement with students after every 10 episodes, just to show you that it's there.
Jen?
And yeah, go ahead.
There's a question, can books, episodes, assessments be linked to Google Classroom?
So can these episodes be linked to Google Classroom? The answer is yes. You can set this up in Google Classroom. I've actually been doing that this week for my own knowledge. I want to see how far I can take this with Google Classroom. And so what I've done is created an assignment. I've listed instructions as well as embedded the link for them to go on to the Kids A to Z side. But what will happen is, yes, you can link any of these PDFs to Google Classroom, and you can link the ebooks to Google Classroom. But if you want your students to be engaging with the platform, you would have to obviously embed the Kids A to Z link. They would then, just as we did before, log into Kids A to Z through Google Classroom and get there. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep, got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you log into Kids A to Z, and this is a different login. So Brittany, for example, will sign in, and you'll see here that Brittany has access to all of our products. So she may have been in that reading planet earlier, but now she's going to go to her Headsprout, and her Headsprout looks similar. She clicks in and it shows her which episode she's on. And if she would click on that button, it would take her through an entire episode. I don't know if you can hear this, but there's talking and lots of music, and it gives her direction on either to vocalize that lesson or click on specific phonetic skills or follow it however it might be. And like I said, we've got many different types of lessons. Some are focusing in phonemic awareness and phonics, and others are students are given a passage to read, and then they are asked text-dependent questions, or they're asked to highlight a section in that passage that connects with the question or learning strand at hand. It's all varied, so it just depends on what episode that you're on.
Great, thanks. Hey,
and then
Jen,
of course, yep,
yeah,
go ahead.
I think we're gonna try to wrap up. We
yeah,
have about
that's fine.
5 more minutes. So for the whole webinar, just because we've gone over a lot, and I don't want people to have to log off before we're done. So if you could.
And I was done. I was just sort of, I get excited and I start going down rabbit holes. So
that's such good information. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, so I do want to point out that Jen's information is down on the left-hand side, okay? And I'm sure she'd be happy to talk with you, and Sarah is there too. We will also happy to act as a go-between. If it's easier just to email us, that's fine, or call us. Again, any questions that weren't answered by Jen, we will get those answers and we will be posting them to a file that you will be able to access. All right, so thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I am going to take the screen back. Although, I don't, hold on one sec. How can I take the screen back? Mike, are you able to give me the screen back? Somehow I'm getting everyone that's attending as an option. I could give the screen to any of you, which would be shocking for you. So I'm just gonna.
Karen, do you want me to show the PowerPoint?
Here I am. Okay, I got it. All right. So here we are back. Thank you, Jen. That was terrific. I learned a lot. I want to share with you before we go just a few more resources that we have for you. And I chose some lightweight ones because I figured we would go into depth on A to Z. I want you all to know that Mo Willems is doodling with everyone at lunchtime. Okay, there's Mo Willems. And I would play you the video, but we don't really have time. But he's kind of an adorable human being. And I am almost positive that any of your children, grades K through 2, or 3 even, would love to doodle with Mo Willems at lunchtime. And there's a lot of authors who are doing this right now. And at the bottom, this is a live link to an article in the New York Times that gives you a bunch of links to a bunch of children's authors that are doing this. So I wanted to share that with you. And this is another super resource. And I really love this resource for a lot of reasons. It can be oral, it can be written, it's good for kids with special needs. It's simple, right? It's through the New York Times. What's going on in this picture? So there's some really interesting photos, which are so good at engaging kids. And then the caption is stripped, and then you can have a conversation with your student, or your student can join the moderated conversation online about what other students are seeing, what conclusions they're coming to. You can use it as a writing activity. You can use it as an oral activity. I think it's terrific. I think it's accessible. The last one that I wanted to emphasize, and I was going to go in and show you my book, but Book Creator is nothing short of miraculous, and it's used by lots of teachers, but it's easy enough for you to go online at home as a parent. If I could figure out in 30 seconds, you certainly can. Kids can they're given a blank book screen, And there's all sorts of tabs and additions and symbols where you can write in it, upload pictures, upload videos, use selected designs. There's even, when you're drawing, there's even a way for kids that are insecure in the computer or don't feel good about their drawing, or they're super little, kindergarten, they can, there's a piece that the student starts to draw, and Book Creator can anticipate what they're trying to draw and turn it into whatever it's supposed to be. So I would really recommend Book Creator. It's wonderful. It's so open-ended, and it's a great thing to play with. And then your kids can publish a book about anything that they're interested in, and you can do it with them if you have time. The attached to the handouts is a one-page source list for you. So we vetted, and I've gone into all of these, and I've put down the ones that I think are best. And you will see, I'm hoping you'll go to Newsela. I use it a lot with my own kids and have used it over the years. The Newsela is the second one. All of the articles can be created in various text levels. So you can get it at a 2nd grade level, a 4th grade level, a 6th grade level, an 8th grade level. And it's the same content. The content is interesting. There's endless interesting content in all different subjects. Epic is a digital library. Lots of schools use it. Your kids' teachers might be using it. Khan Academy, most of us know about that. What I like about Khan Academy, it's free for all of these are free, by the way. And again, this document is attached to the handouts, and it'll be uploaded into the folder. Many languages and hundreds of online lessons. And BrainPop is for research. It gives you videos, and then it also gives you a place where the kids can draw and write about what they're learning. And the Crash Course is a science site, and there's tons of really fun videos that are delivered by face-to-face, like a person that you can connect to. A lovely young woman is narrating the short videos with animation and stuff. And there's more on that list. So I hope that you will avail yourself of that. And finally, we have some upcoming webinars this afternoon, and Mike and I and our team will explore about what's going on with GoToWebinar, and we will hopefully fix any issues that you encountered today. And today at 3:30, there's remote learning for middle and high school. And then we're going to have Tuesday for teachers of grades 3 and 4, and really any grades. 5 and 6 can join too, or 1 and 2. Some teachers are coming on and talking about what they're doing for virtual instruction. We're repeating a Google Classroom webinar on Tuesday as well. And then in the morning, first thing in the morning on Tuesday, we're doing a self-care for educators. Thursday, we're talking about local assessments, and Friday, we are going to talk about supporting EL learners. And then going forward, we're planning for special education students, supporting them, for principals, and lots of other ideas. And if you have ideas, send them to me. So please contact Mike and I. We are happy to help you. If you have questions, your questions weren't answered, please contact us. And in a couple of hours, you're going to receive a certificate. You're going to receive a recording of the webinar. You're going to receive a link to a public file on Google Classroom, which will answer your questions and allow you to access any of the documents in case you didn't download them. And Mike, do you have anything you want to add?
No, just those documents will be on Google Google Drive, not on Google Classroom, just to clarify.
Oh, sorry.
But you'll get, no worries, you should get you'll get an email in the next 2 hours with all that information. But I just want to, since I got the floor real quick, I just want to thank Karen and Jen and Laura for putting together the presentation today. Laura, we are sorry that we had the technical difficulties for you, but we'll bring you back another time to talk to folks. For those of you who had any difficulty listening, we're optimistic that the recording will have all the audio, and so we will post the recording and you can replay that or share that with folks who weren't able to listen and hopefully hear through the recording. And Karen, thanks for all your efforts.
Sure. And thank you all for your patience today. Really, really appreciate it. So, and I hope you guys are coping, and get in touch if you need anything. And thanks, Mike, for your help.
Thanks.